show, and that is the time where you and I get to chat and everybody else gets to listen. That's always fun. We learn by listening to others as well. And to do that, you got to call me. Let me give the number out real quick right at the top here, 844-940-2774. 844-940-2774 is the number to get on the air. And this is where we talk about stuff. Now, if you've listened to the program before, uh, we try to stay in the realm of stuff that I know anything about, which is a limited universe, but not a shallow one. It's about our life stuff. I always talk about the pie of life. It's got three big slices to it: your clinical life, your relational life, and your performance life. So, how you feel, how you're relating to people, or how they're relating to you, which oftentimes is a problem, or how you're doing in making those goals turn into realities. We talk about all that because you know what? There's our issues get in the way. And here's a newsflash. Sometimes other people's issues get in your way. Now, you've probably never experienced that, but I have, and a couple of my friends have. So we talk about that because, sometimes bad people happen to good people. That happens. 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774 to get on the air. Quick announcement. We have a live webinar coming up. Get signed up now for, I think we got early bird registration fees going on. So sign up now. The live event will be March 4th at 4 p.m. Pacific at 6 p.m. Central. You can do the math from there. But you know what? If you can't be there live, then you'll be able, if you're registered, you'll be able to watch it after that. And for all the boundaries.me plus members, you know that you have access to all those workshops. If you're not a boundaries.me subscriber, then go to that website, boundaries.me, and become a member. And you get all sorts of stuff there. Boundaries.me. And then if you want to sign up for the workshop, it's boundaries.me/restore. Okay. So I always open the show with talking about something that's going through my head or something that I'm researching or something that I'm working on or running into with the people I work with. And speaking of going through your head, here's a topic that was going through my head. And that is what's going through your head. What does that mean? Well, I had a client one time, um, and she had this awakening one day, and she goes, you know, life would be pretty crummy if you had somebody walking a foot behind you, banging you on the head with a stick continuously throughout the day. I said, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good life. Why do you mention that? She says, because I just realized that's what I do to myself. Open up pretty good conversation about the running dialogue that goes through her head. For those of you who have heard the term self-talk, or you've worked with cognitive therapists before, or sometimes there's a lot of emphasis in really good faith circles, where somebody's putting themselves down, and you can go to the scriptures and see that you might think that about you, but that's not what God says about you, and other kinds of ways to, refute that. But everybody knows, back when I first started, we would call it, you got these tapes in your head. Well, we don't have tapes anymore. So now you've got audio clips in your head, digital, and they really are digital because here's the deal. They are coded into the software and sometimes the hardware of your brain. Have you ever noticed that unless something really incredible is happening, you're getting a big promotion tomorrow, or you find out that night you won the lottery ticket, or your wedding day is the next day, or whatever it is. A lot of times, those circumstances notwithstanding, a lot of times when people wake up in the middle of the night, or they find themselves at a stoplight, or something's distracting, they're not really focused on anything, what starts running through their head is something, let's just call it worrisome. It's negative. It's what ifs. It's worrying about the future. It's worrying about the present, something's going on right now, or it's obsessing about something in the past. Well, why is that? I mean, if you pull up your computer screen, nothing jumps on the screen unless you double click it to open it up intentionally. Or there's a default setting that just opens up when the computer boots up. Well, that's what we're talking about. These are default settings a lot of times in your soul, in your heart, in your mind, and actually in your strength. Jesus said to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And that pretty much covers all of it. And that's what I wanted to say a few things about. When you got these negative things running through your head, maybe you just had a phone call with somebody or you saw them, you ran into them and then you said something and you go, oh, I hope they didn't take that the wrong way. Oh, I hope they're not going to go call somebody and say, oh, I screwed up that meeting and there's all this obsessional stuff that for many, many people, those are kind of automatic. And if it's not one thing, it's another. I used to, whenever I was working with somebody that had ruminations, it's part of, OCD, and they'll say, well, if I just hadn't done this, I wouldn't be. I go, you know what? That's really not true. If it weren't that, it would be something else because you got something else going on. It's not this issue. It's not, did you lock the door and is the house on fire? If it weren't that, it'd be somebody else. Because the mind, when it's active like that, that program's running, it'll find something to worry about. If you've ever noticed, some of you that wake up in the middle of the night doing this, can be a lot of different things. But it defaults. And here's what I want you to notice. This is the first step of getting out of this. It defaults to things that are negative. So if that is you, I want you to notice that. Have you ever noticed how much there's a negative audio file running through your head? Hypothetical what ifs, or catastrophizing, or worrying about something in the past. Well, quick thing. See, that's just automatic. That's not even real thinking. Real thinking leads to some sort of a solution. That's obsessing. And here's a quick test. If something like that's going through your head and it's about the future, what action can you take that will deal with that? For example, you're obsessing about, oh, I hadn't filed my taxes and the date's coming up. Well, that's something you can take some action about. So write down, here's what I'm going to do. Then you go back to sleep. If it's something about the past, you probably can't do anything about that unless you have a time machine. If there is something you can do about it, like go apologize to somebody or there's some trauma you hadn't dealt with or something, then write down what you're going to go do about that. But many times you've already sought forgiveness, you've already done everything you can do about that, and this is just an obsession. One of my favorite verses is where God says, after you're forgiven, their sins and lawlessness, I will remember no more. He doesn't wake up at night obsessing about what you did that was so bad. If he's forgiven it, it's out of sight, out of mind. But it's not out of sight, out of mind for that program running in your head. So I want you to do a little observation. Just pick a day. I don't care which day, but pick a day. And just kind of keep a running log of two things. Often and how much time in the day are you thinking about things like that are negative about yourself, about the future, about the world, whatever it is? How much time is that taking up? Especially the ones about yourself. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. I screwed it up again. I can't believe I, all that kind of stuff. I just want you to begin to watch it and audit it. Now, what that is going to tell you is hopefully the same awakening that my client had that day, where she notices, oh, no wonder I feel so anxious or crappy so much of the time. Somebody's beating me over the head with a stick, and it's me. So that's the first step is to notice it because if you notice it, then you're going to realize something. 99% of the time, this has nothing to do with reality. It is a thought. Now, here's the thing. It's not thinking, but it is a thought. Because thinking is an active process that we're really engaged in and using the upper parts of our brain and not the lower parts, which are generating all this stuff. So you've got to see this as it's sort of like a runny toilet. You ever had a toilet where, what do they call those things? The flapper valve gets stuck and it just keeps running. Well, that's what a lot of people's, you know, actually brain is doing. And this can come from a few places, which gets us to the next step. This could come from unresolved trauma that's living in your body and it's activating all your, adrenal systems and fear systems and all of that, creating the old fight or flight state. And all the time, it could be you need to tell yourself, you know, I need to go deal with this unresolved pain or whatever it is that's generating this. It could be somebody else's voice that you don't really recognize it, but it's the same things that mom or dad or grandpa or grandma or siblings or bullies or other people have said to you that got internalized, and now those voices in your head, you haven't collected any rent from them, but they're living there rent free, and you're paying for it. So the second thing is to identify what unresolved relationship have I internalized and begin to deal with that. And then you get to the steps of actually talking back to it and saying, that's not true, and having some time tested, way to dispute that and say, that's not true. I'm not going to even consider that. And you get back involved with life. And this is, it's actually a muscle, really, metaphorically, or it's an analogy, I guess. It's like a muscle. The more you go down that path, the stronger it gets and the stronger that rumination track is going to get. But the less you feed it and you feed other kinds of beliefs and thoughts and et cetera, you can reprogram that. We do it all the time. And some of this is in your body. Some of you have got to learn that your body's safe now. You got to get into some relaxed states and a lot of different ways to do that. If you want to go deeper on this, on boundaries.me, we have a webinar in the premium workshop section about outsmarting your anxiety, which covers in depth a lot of these steps. So today, I just want you to become aware of it. You may really be thinking that you're thinking about things when you're not really thinking about things. That's really an automatic process, and that program is something you need to shut down. Okay, speaking of workshops, give another quick reminder. March 4th, 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central, we are going to be having a live webinar called Restoring Your Brokenness. It's about dealing with all that unresolved stuff inside of us, whether it's trauma or grief or loss or emotional pain or other aspects of you because of things that were broken by somebody or by different experiences and how those get healed. It'll be 2 hours-ish. So we always say 2 hours. I always go a little longer. We have Q&A in that, and you can sign up for it at boundaries.me/restore. And there's early bird registration. Now, to view this, you do have to be pre-registered. So go to boundaries.me/restore to get going there. Give me the number again, 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774. number to get on the program. I love talking to you guys. I did a call-in radio show for many, many years across the country, and that's when I learned to really love this format. It's really interesting. I get to talk to one person at a time, right? But it's sort of like in a group. You ever been in a small group or group therapy, and somebody's dealing with their issues, but you're identifying with something in there, some character, some state, some feeling, some struggle. And we learn from listening to each other. So first of all, thank you to the callers who provide that for us and are brave enough to talk about your stuff, as they say, on the air. Interesting also, I think, in today's world, compared to when I first started this, or started doing call in long time ago, um, long time ago, won't say how many years. um, it really was a big deal for somebody to call in. But one thing I'm really happy about, it's become more normalized now, um, to recognize we all have issues, and that's okay. Remember the "I'm okay, you're okay" stuff way back from the pop psychology of the first wave of pop psychology back in the whenever that was, hit in the 70s, I think. I'm okay, you're okay. It was a paradigm where that's the healthiest people, where we realize not because we don't have issues, but in our issues, even though I have issues and even though you have issues, that's okay. We accept each other. We run into problems when we run into the other combinations. I'm not okay and you're not okay. And then we're really fighting, or I'm not okay and you're okay. Then that's a formula for depression and other things. And then, oh, here's a bad one. I'm okay and you're not okay. A little denial or narcissism going on in that scenario. We don't want any of those. So that's what I love about this show. We realize whatever you're dealing with, let's talk about it. I'm okay, you're okay. We all have issues and we will deal with it. Okay, so first I want to take a write-in question or two before we go to the live calls. Um, Here's one I think that is important for all of us, whether you experience this to a great degree or a small degree. Um, you're going to experience it at some time. And it may be chronic, it may be situational. But the question is this: how does stress wear down our immune system? My husband is going through a high stress season, important word, but otherwise has strong health markers according to his doctor. Strong health markers, I don't know if you mean they're really high on the stress level or really good on those. It sounds like he's healthy, but he's going through a period here where it says he's been sick a lot. How does stress make us sick? Without getting too technical about this, among other things, it basically has to do with a lot of hormones that get released under stress. We when we encounter problems, then there's an adrenaline surge and a cortisol surge and all that to activate the system to fight that problem or to fight that problem, move away from it, somehow deal with it. And we're like, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. Well, if you're going through a high stress period, then your body is saying, I got to deal with this. I got something to deal with. I got to solve this. I can't solve it. It keeps coming at me. All that kind of stuff that stress does, stuff we can't control. And what that does is it gets all this chemistry flowing in your brain that really is not the stuff you want to eat daily. It'd be like if you're drinking sewage water all day. Your brain is going to not do well. And that starts to break down different organ systems. Your your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, your digestive system, all of those different systems do not do well when constantly taking a stress shower, and they start to get eroded. That's how it happens. Your immune system actually goes down. In fact, I don't know if this is still what the current research would show, but I remember a while back when they when they looked at the different, they kind of rate stress events in life that are stressful. Um, the the number one is would be the death of um, a spouse or the loss of a spouse. Number two was a move. I think about that. Number two is a move. And what they did in that research, they chronicled, the next year. And within 6 months, people that go through that are extreme higher likelihood to develop some sort of illness, physical illness, not even psychological, because the immune system breaks down. I know back when, especially back when, I don't know how much life was different. I'm still very, very busy, but, and maybe because my immune system is stronger now or I handle stress better than I used to. But I remember when I was on a book deadline, and, I've written a lot of books, and with all my work and getting a book done, I always had double work for a time period, sort of like a CPA in April, getting tax returns ready. Um, I would finish a book, and the next week I would get sick. I'd come down with a cold. It's just like clockwork. Did it all the time. As soon as I'm over the finish line, my body just gave in. So a move can do that to you, job stress, relationship stress, all of that. So yes, that's how it works. It happens in your chemistry. It's just basic chemistry. And your body needs good chemicals flowing through it. That's why relaxation and peace and happiness and connection. The more connection you have in a time period like that, vulnerable connection to support you, the better the immune system. The more you've worked through internal issues like forgiveness. Forgiveness is a huge, huge drain on the organ system. If you look at my book, Trust, listed 1 gazillion physical illnesses that come from unforgiveness when we're holding on to something. Best way to make a bad past event your future is to be unforgiving. Period. It's indisputable. And when I've heard some people say, "Well, I could never forgive him for that," I go, "Too bad for you. Much less them, but too bad for you." So that can do it. Different ways that we think. A lot of stuff can cause this, but yes, that's how it works. Um, so one more quick write in, and then we'll have some calls. We do have calls. They'll be giving me one here soon. There, here we go. Another write in though. I'm a shy person who works a lot. Um, are those related? Do you work more than you need to, but work is a place to feel comfortable and safe and not maybe have to deal with some of the things that go into shyness? That's where I would start. It can become a refuge, but it's really an avoidance refuge that's keeping you from good things. And then it says, I find myself in situations meeting new people, and my go-to is always, so what do you do? But I've heard recently that this is considered a boring and maybe even a rude question. I want to make the right first impression. What should I ask instead? Um, well, first of all, I I don't consider that rude. Um, I think overall, the way, one great tool to deal with shyness is, I mean, Dale Carnegie said this way back when, um, is become other interested. So let me just start there. If you're shy and you want to ease into a conversation, this is just good humanity. It is always good to be focused on the other person. Now, I don't think that's a rude question, really, unless there's some circumstance that might make that a rude question. Um, But I'm sure I could do a segment on this if you want me to. I'll go look it up. You can look it up. Google great icebreakers, great conversation starters. I bet there are a million of these. In fact, I'm going to um, great conversation starters. I'm going to show you how easy it is to uh, do this. Here you go. Here's 250 of them on the first one that came up when I Googled it. Um, Let me give you some of the top ones. So tell me about yourself. Done anything exciting recently? So what made you smile today? So how'd you meet the host? That is a great one in the situation. You know what I say? A lot of times people, I don't do this by as a formula because I don't know. I, conversations for some reason aren't that hard for me, but even though I am an introvert, uh, but I love this one. How'd you meet the host? What I find myself in gatherings like that, saying a lot of times when somebody I don't know, I'll say, "So how are you connected to Susan? How are you connected to John? How do y'all know each other?" And that opens the door to somebody's sometimes their entire history. I mean, that's just, there's so much. And then here's the second thing, and this is just true in just good human interaction. And it gets one of my pet peeves because people don't do this. When somebody answers it, then get curious about their answer. Oh, well, yeah, I met him. We worked on a project together. Oh, really? What project was that? And they talk about the project they were in and say, "Oh gosh, have you been in that industry a long time? What do you do there?" And and you're unraveling an onion here. You're just peeling it off, and you're going deeper with what they've actually told you, as opposed to somebody says, "Oh, no, through work." Like, oh yeah, well, I got a job too, and they just use it as a way of spouting out their own thoughts. One of my favorite verses is in Proverbs. It says, you know, a fool keeps spouting their own opinions. And some people just, that's just what they do. It's just like, it's hard to have a conversation with whatever happens. The next thing they're going to give you, it's not even about what you said a lot of times, or they don't want to know more about what you're thinking. So, um, I heard a phrase one time. How did it go? Um, uh, can't remember the phrase. The first one was something. Um, you're, I don't know. I'll think of it later. But in other words, when somebody says something, you've got an opinion about that and you got a thought about that, and you've got a personal kind of belief about that. Get out of that and take up their perspective. We know what you think, but get curious about. So tell me how you came to believe that, or how you came to feel that way, or gosh, how did you come through to that view, or just try to get in their world. Things will go so much deeper and richer when we do that. To find out about what is going on with them, become other oriented, other oriented. Now, if you're codependent and you never can't even talk about yourself, that's a whole nother problem. But gosh, I wish more people had that problem today, actually. We don't have enough. Codependents are too other oriented and zero about themselves. But it seems like in today's world, can I share one of my pet peeves with you? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have a rant day. Now, I may get canceled forever when I actually do that. Of course, if you want me to do it and you promise not to cancel me, then let us know. But one of the things, I don't know if this is a I don't know if this is a societal thing now, a cultural thing, or a generational thing, or what it is, but it's about being self-centered, in my view, or egocentric would be a better way of saying it. Notice nowadays how many times you go to a restaurant and you got the menu and you're asking the server about, so how's the fish? And they'll say, well, my favorite is the one I really like is, well, I don't really like fish, so I think the chicken is, and their answer will be about what they like. I'd really like to know about the menu. Like, and so I have a come back to that. I'll say, well, that's great, but what do the guests tend to like the best? Or what do you hear the most feedback about? There's so much self-centeredness and egocentricity. And maybe that's just a cultural thing now, but it's something I notice a lot. And I find myself having to ask second, third question a lot of times to find out about the menu. Think about the menu of life. It happens in conversations. Somebody just doesn't want to do anything but talk about themselves. So there you go. Okay. Let me see. Um, let's go to Lene. Lean. I'll let Lean tell me. Um, who asked this? Being a Christian and living with chronic illness. Oh, it's hard. That's hard. What's your number one tool for dealing with a setback that might not go away for a while? I have a condition that causes makes me to be shaky. How do you hold that thorn? Lean, welcome to the program. And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes. Hi, doctor. It is lean. Like,
Lean.
don't lean on me.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay, I won't
Hmm.
lean on you, but I want to be lean. I'm working on being leaner.
Well, it's not all what it's cracked up to be, doc.
Well,
Hmm.
sounds like from what you said, you got something chronic that's disturbing. What's your illness?
It falls into the Parkinson area, but it's not true Parkinson's from head to toe. They got all these diseases out there that are called like, and you find out when you get it, and it's a Parkinson's disease that only goes to one part of your body versus head to toe.
I see.
I've been
And
living with it
so,
for now, 15 years. Yeah.
and there's nothing they can do about it, it sounds like.
No, treatable, not curable.
Treatable, not curable. Or treatable to where you don't have the symptom as much or
No.
anymore, or it's recurrent, or is it all the time?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, it's every day, and different symptoms will pop up. You'll
No.
lose your balance. You'll get
Oh gosh.
vertigo, headaches. Here we go. The HMO commercial. Yada yada yada. But yeah,
Okay.
that's what a lot of chronic diseases are.
Yeah.
A
I'm sorry.
daily
That is
recurrence.
really, really, really difficult. So sounds like you've had it, you said 15 years?
Yes,
That's right. All right.
yes.
Well, tell me how I can help you.
Oh well, I've got my tools. I've got my peeps. I obviously got my Jesus.
There you go.
I was just wondering, if you could pull
By the
a
way,
rabbit
hey,
out.
Lane, I'm gonna interrupt you there for a second because you said you got your peeps and you got something else and you got your Jesus, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I just want to remind people. Some people say, "Well, I got my Jesus." If you got your Jesus and you don't have your peeps, you don't have all of Jesus either. And some people do that.
right.
And what
Mm-hmm.
he said was that he's there in a very different way. I mean, certainly we can have a relationship with him directly, which you're saying you do. But he also said that when we're with others, that he lives inside also, that he is there with us through our peeps. And I'm glad you're
Yeah,
doing that. But I just wanted to say that because a lot of people are suffering more than they need to suffer with what they're suffering because they don't have their peeps. And so we ought to be
Well,
able to
it's a tough
peep into
world.
the
Yeah.
eye. It is, but we
Yep.
ought to be able to peep into the
Yep.
eyes of our peeps and
Yep.
see Jesus
Hmm.
peeping back at us, because that's where a lot of his love and
Right.
support and help comes from. Okay, so you got your peeps,
Amen.
you got your Jesus. What was the
Yeah,
second thing you said?
yeah. And the peeps are few, Doc. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? You got your inner core that are right
Yeah,
there on
yeah.
speed dial. Then you got your outer core that are like maybe bake you a cookie and then kind of go. Then you got your ones that are just surround you and say how you doing, but they don't want to know, but they're nice. So you know how the core gets
That's that
from deep
that's normal.
inside out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
normal.
I'm
In
fine
fact,
with
that's
that.
no, it's not only fine, it's prescribed. That's what I wish everybody had. Big concentric circles. And so
Yeah, yeah.
if you had, there's 100 people in your life and they're all at the same degree of depth, then it'd be very hard to have any depth. So,
Right.
anyway,
Exactly.
okay, so you got all
Exactly.
that going
Yeah.
on. So tell me how I can help.
Uh, what's your number one tool of living with a thorn in your flesh like this? I know that's a trick question. You probably don't have a number one answer because suffering is pin the tail on the donkey. I get it. But at the same time, I would love to hear your point of view.
Well, I can give you my point of view. Um, Obviously, it's not a cure-all because chronic things are sometimes. Um, but I'll tell you my top three, and then I'm going to give you a couple right underneath that. The top three you have, I think you got going on, and that is, you know, you got your Jesus. You're talking to him all the time, and you're leaning on him. You're getting strength from him, and you can look at that, and maybe you need to increase that or not. I don't know how you do it, but sometimes people do. Secondly, you got your peeps, and I would make sure you have a lot in that inner circle, and I would also spend some time with the outer circles because sometimes that can be a shallow. Um, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, we need people in our lives that we don't go deep with, that we just go have fun with, because sometimes that's a really distraction over things that are chronic. And that's why,
Mhm.
even when I was doing inpatient treatment, we weren't always in groups going deep or one-on-ones going deep. We would go on outings and get people who were suffering out into the real world and get them out into life and get them involved in going to the zoo or anything that I'm not focused on my illness. The more of that can be very helpful. So those are really important. A third one is obviously I would, and it sounds like you've done this, but you do the get the best experts around that you can. You got to have good doctors, and you said you're being treated. The 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 other one, if you're asking me personally, um,
Yes, I am.
and even if it's chronic, and I could tell you stories. In fact, I'm going to recommend a book to you. It's
Great.
called Minute by Minute, I think. If that's not it, it's something like that. It's by a woman named Joanne Moody, Minute by Minute.
Hmm.
And she had chronic pelvic pain from a pinched nerve in childbirth. And she couldn't get out of bed for 14 years. And the pain was, you can read about it, but she had 15 surgeries, none of which did anything. And she talks about how she dealt with that minute by minute was the way she had to keep going. But here's the one I was gonna, and here's why I say that. Um, you asked for mine. Even in things that are chronic, we pray about them, and sometimes other people are praying for us. But with chronic, sometimes anything that lasts longer than a while, we tend to think, well, God says no to helping me with this. He just wants me to, as you said, deal with that thorn. Well, and I've seen this many times, but here's what, and I love Joanne's book. 14 years, she was in prayer about this and she never gave up. 14 years. And she had other people praying for her continuously for 14 years. 15 surgeries, nothing helped. After 14 years, she went into a some sort of a healing service that a guy named Randy Clark, you can look him up, was doing. And she was just there as an attendee, wasn't thinking, she kind of given up. I think the guy was going to heal her. And she went in there, and a guy walked across the room and said, I'm summarizing this the best I remember, but as I recall, said something to her about that God was going to heal her. He didn't know her, didn't know anything about her, didn't know what she was dealing with, but God had said to him, God's going to heal you. And he, said, be healed in Jesus' name. She dropped to the floor and she got up. She never had pain again. Now, I just say that because you asked me what I would do. I continue to pray about things that aren't changing. And Jesus actually told a story about this, that about the unrighteous judge that the woman kept going to and 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 kept going to, and she never got an answer and she wouldn't give up. She kept going. And then he said, ah, I'm tired of hearing this woman. And he took care of it. And Jesus gave that as an example of how we have to persist. So that's another one that I would put in there. And then another tool for this, Lean, is we talked about it in the beginning of the show, but sometimes the ways that we are thinking about it can add stress and discouragement and depression and all of that to it. And there's some really um, good cognitive. If you're getting all the support and emotional structure and all that you need, there's some really good cognitive therapy tools on chronic pain and other chronic conditions that I'd like for you to look at kind of some of the ways that your head is wrapping itself around this. And another one, very important, is to get a very specific support group of people that have the same illness where you're processing it together. It decreases the isolation and it increases the availability of tools that you might not know about. And then I'm going to give you one more, and then we'll go to our next caller. But here's another one. Um, it, if it makes you shaky, then probably you worry about it when you're around other people, right?
No,
Oh, you don't. So if you're
no, I do
stumbling,
not. No,
okay, so you don't have that
I
problem.
am who I yeah, when you're in chronic illness, you just, minute by minute, you're just putting one foot in front of the other. You are not looking at the crowd. You are
Okay,
not in the arena. Yeah, you're in
okay.
your own private war. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna tweak that a
You don't
little
have
bit.
time to, yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
don't want you obsessing about what they're thinking, but I don't want you to be in a private, isolated state inside in your own head either. I would look at, and what I was doing that what a lot of people deal with is, and what helps that
Mm,
is, when you're with
mm,
somebody that doesn't really know you well or whatever, and you say, you just normalize it. You say, I've got an illness, I shake sometimes, so don't worry about it, it'll happen. And then you just have the relationship like it's just kind of part of who you are, which sounds like you do. So
yeah,
I
absolutely.
hope those things help
Thank you,
you.
doctor.
I would try to find a specific group that could be in this journey with you who have the same thing. That's really, really important. And Lean, thank you for your call and thank you for your modeling perseverance and your attitude. Sounds great. And I think some people could, or I think some people have learned from you today. But pick up Joe Moody's book, Minute by Minute. It's a good one. Okay, let's see. Mallory, who's calling us from Minnesota. And by the way, the number again, 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774. Mallory from Minnesota, following up from last week, her husband is the accountant that's always moving the family around. She brought up the idea of having a family goal before moving again. Her husband dismissed the idea. And said he's already doing that. How can I make it clear that I need a say in this, at least to some extent? Um, what boundaries can I have in the conversation to stick to my point? Mallory, welcome to the program.
Hi again.
Hey there, Mallory. I do remember you, but I don't remember if did we talk on the
Uh-huh.
air or was it right in when I was talking about
We
it?
talked on the air.
Okay,
Yep. And yeah,
that's what I
I
thought. And
yep.
he gets disinterested in his job, and then he moves jobs and wants the family to go with him, right?
Yes, yep. So it's been about 6 times. And I've just been kind of the last 6 months I've been kind of putting up some boundaries, but he goes into these modes where he doesn't talk to me for 3 weeks at a time, every time I put my foot down or just say I'm not ready for that. And I don't think so. I'm wondering. I I wish I kind of would have touched on this last week more, but so that's why I called back. But I mean, I'm just kind of looking at the underlying issue. He kind of moves around. He's probably not attached, like you said, and sees life a little different than I. And
Right.
so
He
I'm
grew
just
up in
wondering.
as I
Yeah.
recall, he grew up in an orphanage, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we all you
So
guys
he's
are
more.
from a
Yeah.
missions. You're from a missions background.
Yep. I am. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the question today that we didn't cover last time?
Well, your advice was really good, but then dealing with someone, your advice was wonderful. Just like, okay, take a step back. What's the guiding star for the family, guiding North Star? Like, let's take a step back from that.
Right.
And so I brought that up to him, and he pretty much just said, "How do you think I didn't do my research before I considered moving the family?" And I'm just
Wait.
like,
Say
well,
that
I don't.
again. What? Say it again. What?
He says, "How do you think I didn't do my research before I considered moving the family?" Because when I talk about a family goal, he's like, "Well, what are our family goals?" And I'm like, "Well, I would like to sit down with you sometime and talk about that. Not
Right.
right now, but because I was on my, yeah, but I would like to plan a few times to really consider what those specific things are." Yes. And he's like, "Well, don't we bring the kids to church and do all these other things?" I'm like, "Yes, but I would like to figure out a plan and then maybe make a move that would support that plan.
Or not make a
Not
move.
being our jobs or not make a move." Right. Because we have a really great community here, which is why I'm kind of devastated even thinking about moving, because the kids love the church programs. They love the school. They have good
Yeah.
friends, and we have wonderful neighbors, all of this. We have a huge garden. We just love it here. But
Well,
so so when he said
okay.
that, it was pretty much in response to the considering a family goal thing. And
Well, what does he say if you've already got it, what does he say the family goal is? What's the vision
what
for
does
the
he
family?
say?
Yeah, he says, well, we
I
already
mean,
got it, basically.
yeah, I mean, this is what we have in common, our faith. And and so I think he thinks that's the main thing I'm talking about is
Well, it's
like
not. And
instilling
so
like,
just hold
yeah,
on for a second. Here's what I would want you to say. I'm going to give you a couple of things. One is,
okay.
uh, sweetheart, a a family vision of what we want our family to look like and how we want it to work for the whole family, where it's good for the whole family. That's what a family vision is. It's not what's good for
Mhm.
one person. It's what's good
Mhm.
for the whole family. Okay?
Mhm.
And if you're telling me that we have that, then you came up with it by yourself because I don't know what it is. I know things that we do, but I don't
Uh-huh.
know what it is we're trying to build together that's good for everyone. So if you're telling me
Right.
that we have one, that is a we that I wasn't a part of. And I want us to do it together. And I'm going to tell you the second thing. He's
Okay.
probably going to negate that in some way. And then what I would say is, I the only way it looks like we're going to be able to talk about this is I want us to go talk to someone together. And that's,
Mhm.
and I'm not going to talk about a move or anything else until we go talk to someone together. And you got to get, you said he's really into the faith. I mean, any pastor, just pastoral counseling, would listen to this and say,
Yeah.
that is very on the surface. I mean, that this is just very egocentric and self-centered.
Mhm.
Because hubby, it's all about you. And the rest of the family is suffering when you make it all about you. That's the way that I would approach it. And I'd get somebody who can help you with that. It doesn't sound, if he doesn't talk to you for 3 weeks, that's that's the reason you, I would say, tell him I want to go to marriage counseling. And if he says, well, I don't want to go,
Yeah.
say, okay, well, I, Mallory, am going to marriage counseling to talk about our
Mhm.
relationship because I need to know how I'm going to deal with this because
Mhm.
I got to do something to deal with this. And I'm going to be talking about our marriage. So I would suggest that you come with me since what I decide to do is going to affect you.
Yeah.
So that's the way I
Yeah,
would.
because he has that would be, yeah, that would be a really good next step for me because I've suggested counseling and it's just an absolutely no. So
Well, you're
then
not, I'm
I
not
just
making
said,
it,
well,
stop. Okay,
yeah,
stop.
yeah,
Melly,
yeah,
hang with me
yeah.
here. I'm not suggesting anything.
Okay. No,
I'm
no.
saying, I'm saying I'm going. That's not a suggestion.
Right,
And I'm
right,
going to go to marriage counseling to talk about what I need to do to deal with our marriage. I
right.
want, and I think it'd be good if you were there too, but I'm going to go either way and it's going to affect you. So I want you
Mhm.
there because I really want it to be a we. But if it can't be a we, I have to do it on my own.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I would do, unless there's some good reason not to. I mean, if
Okay.
he's going to,
No, no, there's no no good reason to
well,
not do that.
some people there, it's dangerous for them to do that. The the guy gets
Yeah,
violent or
yeah.
something, but it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, this is my, yeah, the only thing that's on the line for me is criticism and silent treatment. And those things I've dealt with for the last 6 months, so I'm done. I'm just like, well, okay,
Well,
don't talk to me for 3 weeks.
the
There's
best
nothing I
revenge
can
is
do
to
about
have a
that
good
at this
life,
point.
right? No, seriously, you've got to
Yeah.
deal, you got to not be dependent on him being different until he's different. The best way to do that is find leverage in terms of what will begin to affect him and where he would decide to come to the table. That's a tough
Hmm.
situation. But
Yeah. And
he,
then I have one more quick
well,
question
it's
if
got
you
to go
have
fast.
time.
I got to get to some other,
Um,
if it's really, really, is it
okay,
a
that's
yes or
okay.
no question?
Yeah, that's okay. I can let it go. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you for your time.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you. I know
Appreciate it.
a lot of people probably can identify with dealing with self-centeredness. Um, uh, you know, we should do a whole segment. We're going to do a webinar sometime on, we've got one on dealing with narcissism, I think. By the way, here's a call about that. But, the big problem, the big problem, well, in a certain way, yes, in life is self-centeredness. It's when somebody exists unto themselves. They're the only ones that matter. And their relationships tend to support what matters to them, or they fail or have difficulty because they can't die to themselves for the sake of something bigger like the we. Now, some people will say, well, I'm not self centered. I have friends and I do this and this and that. And I would say, um, well, what is, when you're making all those decisions and doing all of that, what are your, who do you answer to? Who do you submit to? And in my view, if somebody's not submitting to God, that is the worst form of self-centeredness because that means we are our own gods. So we decide what's good or bad, what's right or wrong, the way to live or not to live. And some people make, pretty good choices, but when push comes to shove, they're the ones in charge of their lives. And in my view, then if we don't have somebody bigger than us, remember when Bob Dylan saying, you got to serve somebody? Everybody's got to serve somebody. It might be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. Well, they're going to end up serving themselves to some sort of self-destruction of relationships or something else. We were made to be in a relationship with somebody above us, somebody who transcends us, transcendent strength and power and guidance and love and ways, and we're to submit to him in all things. And one of the first thing he tells us to submit to is like any good parent, when you got two kids playing down there, share your toys. It's not all about you. But push comes to shove. Sometimes if we don't have God to answer to, then we can get pretty selfish as humans. Greta, why? Why, Greta? Why do you keep attracting narcissistic relationships? That's what her question says. Why do I keep attracting narcissistic relationships? I'm 47, haven't been married, but want to. When I find myself in a quote healthy relationship, it doesn't feel right. I have an outsized fear of abandonment and rejection. How can I become attracted to healthy relationships? Greta, welcome to the
Hello,
program.
hello.
How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I'm doing wonderful, Dr. Cloud.
Where are you from?
Southern. I'm from the South. I'm from Mississippi. I live in Chicago now.
Oh, now wait a minute. I knew it. I knew it. Where in Mississippi?
Oh,
Did I go to high school with you? Where are you? Where in Mississippi?
no. No, are you being? I am. You went to high school with me? Are you 47?
Well, I'm only 42, but I always, thought the
Um,
older girls were cute.
are
So
Are you from North? Are you from North Mississippi?
I'm from Vicksburg.
I don't want to talk too much, but I'm an educator, so I know about all of that. I graduated from Jackson State.
Where'd you grow
So
up?
I did Oxford.
Oxford. Got it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I might have spent a few misspent weekends at the Grove up there in Oxford. So,
Well, you know what? I did teach that. Well, I'm familiar with Vicksburg. I'm very familiar with Vicksburg.
you taught in
Yes,
Vicksburg?
I did.
Where?
Dr. Bird.
Okay, you're the
I
one
didn't
that
want
called
to
a
national.
worldwide internet radio show. All right, you don't have to say. You don't have to
Okay,
say.
okay.
You don't have to say.
I could tell you later, but yes. So where do I go from here?
Well, just put it in a question. I mean, I kind of read the background a little bit. Put it in a question.
My question is, growing up, I know that my father is a narcissist. So I did, do some reflection, and inside was saying, you're dealing with inner childhood wounds as well. But I don't want to. It seemed like it's a curse. I don't want to attract that type. And I don't know if it's the thinking, the way I think, or if it's just the familiar, but I hate it. And I don't stay in a relationship long. And I did, I broke up with the narcissist.
That's good.
Because, it wasn't that I didn't have boundaries at this. Before this, it was 6 years ago, but I was listening to a friend and she kept telling me, oh, you're being, you're being too masculine. She was saying that, I was being too firm and hard, but I should have stayed with my own decision.
Too firm and hard on what? Give me an example.
When I was telling her that I saw red flags, I didn't want to be in that relationship.
I know, but give me an example. Give me an example where you were being too firm or hard.
With the communications, like I said, hey, I'm not going to call him anymore. This was the beginning of the relationship, and she just encouraged me to continue to conversate with them and have a conversation.
No, but
I have a mind of my own.
Hang on.
Why was I not?
Yeah,
Okay.
why didn't you want to call him? What was the problem? Give me an example of the narcissism and the boundary
It
that you
was
set.
the problem was the communication.
Okay, give me an
That
example.
the games that they play, the games with not returning. You don't hear from them as far as playing those games when not calling back or
Okay, so
not hearing from them in a couple of days.
you would talk to him and he just would ghost you for a time being that
Yes, for a couple.
wasn't appropriate to the level of the relationship.
Um, from the South, the expectations are you always that's the thing about me. I have those expectations of this is who I am, so I expect the same from other people. So I guess not. It was beginning of we just getting to know each other. So I do have boundaries, and I've been doing boundaries for maybe some couple years. But growing up, I was that child that wanted to please my parents, and I went to school and did all the good grades.
Look, hold on a second. The problem is you're in a relationship with a guy and he's ignoring you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you said, you know what? I don't want to be ignored. I'm going to move on. What's wrong with that? That's really good. Your friend, if that's what she said, you're being too firm
That's what
on.
happened in the beginning, but she kept pushing me to go back and call them. And I said, no. Like she would get upset. And I'm going to call her an associate because I'm not going to call her a friend. I don't think a real friend would have done it. Now, she did apologize, after, I broke up with him back in December because I ended up, continuing their relationship, listening, taking her advice. The relationship.
So you needed two boundaries. You needed to say goodbye to him and you tell her, you know what, your advice isn't helping me. So I don't want any more advice on my dating relationship from you.
That's what should have happened.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I'm going to speak broadly to the big question about the narcissist. You said you did some self-reflection. That's good. Have you done any deep therapeutic work on this?
No, I haven't, and I want to. I definitely want to.
Greta,
I haven't. So,
come on.
Listen.
Look, we get patterned and we get injured in relationship.
Yes.
And you move away from relationship because relationship hurts. But then you want a relationship, so you're attracted to a hurtful relationship again.
Yeah.
But in the same way we get hurt and wounded and patterned in crummy relationships, we get healed in good ones. So that's why starting with a really good therapy relationship where you learn what it's like for somebody to be there for you. Listen to what you need, listen to what you think, and you learn, oh, this is different. And then what's different becomes familiar. And then what's familiar gets generalized, and then you begin to pick people who are different than narcissists.
Yes, I need that.
There you go.
Where do I start with a therapist? Where?
In their office, usually.
No, I'm saying who would be a great someone I can reach out to.
How big?
I need to be in a program. I do. I want to.
Oh, gosh,
I have a couple books of yours, so.
Well, yeah, that's great, and that I put a lot of work into those books. I hope they're helpful. But one of the things the books will also tell you is that you need to get with somebody that it lives outside your head and outside the book to be able to live out different patterns with you. So where do you live in a big city?
Yeah, I'm in Illinois.
That's a state.
I know. I didn't want to tell you that, but I'm in Chicago.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Yeah.
I wonder if there's any good therapists in Chicago.
Oh boy, listen at
Come
you.
on. Come on. And then I want you in a
Who
good
would you
group.
recommend me?
Look, you're
Okay,
47. You're 47.
recommendation.
You're still a
Recommendation.
spring chicken, but you're not 18. All right?
No, I'm not. Yes.
I mean, when I was in high school with you and I was a freshman and you were a senior, I thought I had more time too because you were so much older. But you're 47. Okay, you got a lot
Mhm.
of years ahead of you to have a really good relationship. So
I believe
let's get this on the right path now. So I want you to find a
that.
good
Okay.
therapist who understands these issues and a good group where you can learn to be in a family experience where it feels like, wow, I can be in a group where everybody's concerned with each other. I've never seen that before. So that's what I would
Okay.
want you to do. And then, are you a
Okay.
boundaries.me member?
Am I what?
Boundaries.me member.
No, no, but I do. I mean, I can become one.
Well, no, you
And then I
can't.
would.
No, no,
Oh,
you
oh,
cannot
oh.
become one.
Okay.
You cannot become
Okay.
one
Okay.
because I'm not going to be only about, or not about Greta. I'm going to show Greta what it feels like to to receive something. And now you are now a boundaries.me plus member. Okay, and stay on the line. You you
Thank
won
you.
the
Thank
you
you.
won the
Thank you.
Mississippi
Thank you.
lottery today,
That's the best
and you
gift in the world.
there you go.
Thank
And
you.
then when you log in as a new member, then go to the premium workshops tab, and there's a bunch of stuff on there, but specifically one on dealing with narcissistic people. So there you go, Greta. I got to run, get to another
Yes.
call, but I want you to call
So
me
I need to
back.
stay on the line.
Yeah, stay
Oh,
on the line, and they'll get your
okay.
info, get you signed up. But Greta,
Okay. Yes.
I
My God.
I want my Mississippi pal to get
Yes,
thriving because you sound like a lot of fun. Some guys missing
I
out
am. I'm so
because some
bubbly.
guys
I
missing out.
actually,
Yeah, you know what? Here's the
they
problem.
are.
There's a really
Uh-huh.
good guy out there who's missing out because you look at him and you say, "Oh no, he's not selfish enough for me."
No, honestly, I don't put up with too much either. So I've been single for a while. So when I do try to date, that's when I attract the narcissist. But I don't believe in just, I want to heal and then start,
Well, okay.
dating.
Look,
So,
here's a there now that you're a boundaries.me member, you can go on the premium workshops
okay,
tab, and there's a workshop on there called How to Get a Date Worth Keeping. I want you to watch
okay,
that. All right. And
okay.
safe
So I'm going
people
to
and
stay
a
on the
bunch of
line.
other stuff on there. Okay. Greta,
Great. I will reach back out to you. I will. I'll make sure that I get the information. And thank you so much. I am so excited
and I
about
want you
starting my
to
new journey.
I want you to tell Albie what high school you taught at. You might have been my teacher.
Oh, okay. Well,
Maybe.
I want to talk. I'll be able to reach back out. I'm going to stay on the
Okay.
line
Stay on the line.
and
Okay.
talk to whoever. Okay.
Thank you for your call. Oh gosh. Narcissism. Gosh, it's amazing how much of a in the vernacular of everything narcissism has become. Okay, we got to just a minute or so here, but I want to get to Alessandra. Um, has a situation, husband cheated on her. Well, that's not good. Separated for 8 months, got back together a year ago. Anniversary's coming up. Feels off because emotionally it's not our 4 year anniversary. Feels off kilter when it comes to delineating our relationship timeline. I don't want to brush over what happened. At the same time, I want a fresh start. Can we create a new anniversary? That's interesting. Oh, Alessandra, welcome to the program.
Hello. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You're very welcome. As I understand it, you've been married 4 years, but it was only 3 years and 4 months that you were actually together. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
When did the 8 month separation happen?
So that happened. It was like so the affair happened in no December January of, so it's almost been 2 years
2 years.
ago.
And you were apart
Yeah.
for 8 months. So you guys have been back together for 16 months now.
Yes.
And you're doing well?
We're doing well. Yeah. I mean, it was
Way to go.
like
Way to
we were,
go. Way to go. Way to go. Way to
yeah.
go. I imagine that
Yeah,
took
we've
some
had a
work.
lot of yeah, we went to like a marriage intensive retreat, and
Where was that?
like that was in it was in Missouri. It was through Hope Restored.
Okay. Great.
And so we did that. And yeah, I mean, I had some, like, we went through some really hard times, and I almost kicked him out and we almost separated again because it was just very, very traumatic what happened for me. But I feel like finally we're like on the other side. I know I still have some healing to do, but it's like I feel really happy that we're back together, and it
Okay.
really does feel like we have like a whole new relationship. So
Great. So things are
yeah,
good.
things are good, and I don't feel like, for a little bit I felt kind of scared to feel good because I
Of
was
course.
afraid of but now I just feel good, and I feel so thankful.
Good.
So now
That's
I
what
just
healing
want a
is.
new start. Yeah.
Well, you've already got a new
Um,
start. You're 16 months into the new start. In fact, you're way past
yeah.
start. You're in a good place now.
Yeah. So it
Okay.
feels really good, and I just want to yeah, I want to create a new anniversary and think of something special to do.
So what's the question? What's special to
My
do?
question, I think I just needed like how do I navigate that, like, with him? How do I talk about that with him? Talk about that with him without it sounding like I want to, like, talk about what happened again and kind of like relive that, because I'm afraid that it might be come off as like I don't
Why do you
know,
let
like
me,
not.
and I'm not dismissing your feelings. I'm trying to understand them. But why do you need to do that? If you guys are doing great, why don't you go celebrate your anniversary?
I don't know, like, because we were separated, like, it's not technically 4 years, or maybe
Well,
I'm just
no, you were not
overthinking it.
you weren't divorced.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, you've been in a 4 year marriage,
Mhm.
and a portion of that was really, really difficult.
Mhm.
But the fact that you're together now after 4 years is a testimony that your marriage is
Yeah.
strong enough to gone through a hellish experience. It's part of your four
Mhm.
years. You did not have two
That's
marriages. You
that's true.
you got something to celebrate here, in my view.
Yeah.
And so I'm just giving you, there's a lot of ways to look at this. I'm giving you the way I would look at it. I would look at it, gosh, we're celebrating 4 years of marriage, and we have something to celebrate because we overcame a hard time, and that's in the past. And let's go celebrate our future and celebrate what we have and celebrate that we overcame stuff. That's the way I would look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I
And you
think
can,
that's
if you want to talk about something that's new, you could talk about. Um, I think what I'm really loving is how much better we have the marriage we have now, and what we learned even
mm,
in what we went through, and just keep it all positive. Because if you've done all the work and all's forgiven and you guys are in a great place, you don't have to drag that into the future. I mean, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
doesn't exist and you're in denial and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
it's just, it sounds so good. Celebrate. You guys are
Yeah.
victorious.
Yeah. I think it's part of, I think I struggle a little bit still with like completely letting it go and just embracing where we are. So,
That's hard to do. That's hard to do. And look, if you,
yeah.
here's what, have you read my book, Trust, on repairing trust?
I have. That's like one of the first books I got.
Oh, did it help?
Did yeah, it helped a ton.
Okay, good. So here's one of the things, just one quick point, and I do have to go. That, there's a difference in forgiveness and healing. You know,
Mhm.
if I walk out here today and, a drunk driver hits me, um, it I can forgive them and I can truly have forgiven them, but there's a while where I might be limping until that broken leg is fully healed, right? And so sometimes after forgiveness and restitution and reconciliation and repairing and everything's good, sometimes things get triggered and stuff needs to come out.
Yeah.
So I'm not denying that sometimes there'll be reminders and you may get sad or whatever, but there's ways of dealing with that. I'm just saying that you guys are victors. And so
Yeah.
I don't know
Thank
why
you.
you need a new non 4 year anniversary. I think it would be
I
great to
don't know.
celebrate. And I would celebrate
Yeah, that's
you and
true.
I would celebrate him. He must have done some hard work and deep repentance and changing and owning and stuff. And you did some very hard
Mm.
suffering and very hard forgiveness and very hard trusting. And shoot, if I were there, I'd throw you guys a party.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I just needed to talk it out. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. And that feels like, yeah, something I want to do.
okay, well, I hope that helps. And please, I don't want to get a bunch of angry emails that I'm telling you to be in denial about what you went through and all that. I'm not. I really
Mm.
want deep
Oh,
healing in
yeah.
that. And he's got to hear all that, but it sounds like he's done it and you've done it. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
I'm just proud of you guys. That's all. Okay.
Oh, thank you. All right.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you for your call.
Bye.
All righty. I like talking to you guys too much. So went over our allotted time. That's one thing I do like about this show. It's not like we're on hard out on live radio or something like I used to do. You'd be right in the middle of something and you'd hear the music playing, you got to hang up. Anyway, but I do have to go. Let me give you one more reminder. Um, where are we? There it is. Of our upcoming webinar, live webinar, Restoring Your Brokenness. So we're going to be dealing with all the hurts, things that are unresolved, trauma, grief, bad parenting, if you've been abused, anything that's broken, we're going to talk about how that gets healed. March 4th, 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central. Go to boundaries.me/restore to sign up. Now, if you can't be there at the live event, you do have to be pre-registered, and we have early bird registration going on right now. So you can get a ticket and you can get it cheaper. And if you can't be there, don't worry. If you're registered, you can watch it after it's over, just like Netflix. Just click on it. It'll be right there for you. Okay, guys, it is very, very good to be with you as always. I think you guys know this. I love I love being with you in this format. It's always fun. And I think we're probably going to be here. I think we're going to be here tomorrow. So check it out. Roughly 1 o'clock Central Time. Always available on YouTube. click the like and subscribe and become a boundaries.me member as well. Go to boundaries.me to get signed up. Okay. Love you guys.